This week on Pit Stop with Don and James, we talk about Franco Colapinto taking over for Jack Newman. We talk about Oliver Oakes resigning from Alpine. And we look forward to the Imola Grand Prix. Welcome to Pit Stop with Don and James. I'm James.
And I'm Don.
Hey man, how's it going this week?
Yeah, it's going well. I guess we should note that we're recording on Mother's Day, so we're both neglecting our moms. But yeah, we won't take up too much of their precious day.
Yeah, my wife's comfortably on the couch watching a movie. I think she's going to be all right.
Very good. Yeah, my wife is tucked into her oversized chair watching a episode of her favorite TV show at the moment, which I don't know if this dates or places the podcast in a particular thing, but it's Mobland. This is new show Mobland that has Pierce Brosnan in it.
I don't even know that I've heard of that one.
Yeah, she says pretty good, so might want to check it out. I haven't watched an episode yet, but I've caught a few minutes here or there, and it does seem pretty good. I'm trying to remember who else is in it. Maybe Tom Hardy. I think, yeah. So it's got a good cast.
Nice.
Anyway, yeah. So happy Mother's Day to any moms out here who might listen to this. I don't know if any do, but I do know that a couple of my friends listen. So this might be their reminder that yesterday or 2 days ago was Mother's Day.
Time to make up for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and no race this week. Sadly enough.
Yeah, no race. So we're gonna have to fish for stuff to talk about. I think we've got a good agenda for people listening.
Yeah, I think I want to start by mentioning about how Albon received a 5-second grid or a 5-second time penalty for staying above the minimum lap time under the safety car during the sprint race, which dropped into 11th. So no longer in the points. Very devastating. I failed to recognize it last week, and when I found out middle of this week, it broke my heart. I had to go double check for myself and make sure I wasn't seeing the wrong news.
Yeah, that's a real bummer. I mean, P5 down to P11. I guess that shows you how tight it ended up. If a 5-second penalty can drop you that far.
Yeah. Well, when you finish under a safety car and you're all bunched up, it's that's a big hit.
Yeah, that's one of the things you don't think about. The safety car bunching everybody back up. Yeah, God, that's too bad.
Yeah, that's gonna haunt him for a long time. I think, like just a simple driver error under a safety car. Like it's so ridiculous, but rules are rules, right?
So he was just going too fast under the safety car. That's it.
Setting personal best under the safety car.
Well,
I wouldn't say personal best, but just bad timing.
Yeah. Well, if you, I mean, I don't know. Some of those things, it's so crazy to me how they happen. Like that in particular, or speeding in the pit lane, all that kind of stuff. I mean, especially when nothing actually happens because of it, like it doesn't really change anything. Nobody gains an advantage, nothing like that. They're just going a little too fast here or there. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is racing. We should be err on the side of letting them go too fast. I don't know. So anyway, yeah, bummer.
Yeah, heartbreak. So hopefully in Imola they can keep on the momentum. Hopefully maybe have a really good weekend for both of them. It seems like every weekend one of them has something happen to them. So
yeah,
and usually Sainz is the one it happens to. So we'll see. Hopefully Imola will be a better turnaround for him.
I think one of the reasons why Williams got a guy like Sainz was to avoid mistakes, like, hey, we've got a solid driver here, and he isn't usually prone to too many mistakes. He's pretty savvy, but I mean, I guess it's not always mistakes necessarily if it's weather or something else that gets the best of him. But yeah, I don't know. I think Sainz has been steadily improving over this season. So yeah, I think, and Albon's been doing fantastic. It's hard to hold something like this mistake against him. but you know, I mean, it didn't affect the fact that he on merit finished fifth. That speeding under a safety car, he didn't overtake anybody or gain an advantage. It doesn't seem like so. It seemed like he earned P5, you know. So hopefully that's the way he's looking at it going forward.
Yeah, that's how I'm still looking at it. But
Yeah,
I don't know. I guess we should mention that Imola is the next race coming up.
yeah.
Always eventful. Although it's not called Imola, it's got some ridiculously long name that I can never remember, so I always just call it Imola.
Right. Well, I think we mentioned the name last week, but yeah, it's got a really it's got a really long name. Let me just recap it. The
Emilia Romagna Grand
yeah,
Prix.
Formula One AWS Gran Premio del Mare in Italy, El del Emilia Romagna. So yeah,
Yeah,
they got a
at the
long name for it.
Autodromo Enzo Edino Ferrari.
Yeah.
Just call it Imola, man.
Yeah, Imola rolls off the tongue a lot better than whatever they came up with there.
Yeah,
So
it's like the Visa Cash App Red Bull Racing.
yeah, the V carb that was good. I'm glad they did away with
Yeah.
that. Although Racing Bulls is not exactly an awesome name. um, but
And
yeah,
it's better than what it was. It's little progress, right?
yeah. Oh boy, yeah. I liked Toro Rosso and Alpha Tauri. Toro Rosso makes sense to me, right? Like it's just the Red Bull team in Italian, but then Alpha Tauri sounded cool, but I think Alpha Tauri is just a fashion brand, isn't it?
I think it was like the simultaneous rollout. Like they're like, oh, we're gonna name it Alpha Tauri, and then we're gonna do clothing line called Alpha Tauri.
Yeah. Interesting.
Bizarre.
Well, I don't know. I thought both of those names were better than V Carb or Racing Bulls.
I'll take Alpha Tauri. I like that name.
Yeah. Yep. Well, okay. So we're heading into Imola. We've got a few pieces of news though that we can talk about before we get into the more serious news. Did you watch the video of the Lego F1 car race at Miami? We didn't talk about it last week,
No,
but I finally went back and watched it, and it was a fun little segment that they did where they made what did they make a giant actual life sized operational F1 car out of Legos for each team, one car for each team.
I think with a maximum speed of 5 miles per hour or something crazy like that, it was super slow. I did see a little pre-video of it of like the drivers were arguing amongst themselves, like, "No, I need to drive this thing. Like, you can sit on the back." Like, everybody wanted to drive them.
Yeah, I thought that was really funny, and I noticed that there was almost like a 1-2 driver thing. Like if you're the lead driver, you were in behind the wheel, and the number two driver was a passenger. I didn't look at every team, but I did notice that for the Ferrari, Charles was in the front and Lewis was in the back, and in Mercedes, George was driving, and Kimmy was the passenger, and then. I didn't in the video I watched. I didn't see the Red Bulls, but I did see the Alpine, and Pierre was driving, and Doohan was the passenger, and they looked like they were legit having a fun time going around the track in these Lego cars, and I thought that was kind of cool. I think people should check that out if you didn't. It was fun to see them laughing. All those guys were laughing a lot, like which. Uh, this is supposed to be sporting, and this is supposed to be entertainment, and it's supposed to be fun, and I think there's such high pressure when you're one of 20 drivers in the world trying to compete for a lot of money is on the line for the teams and you know the drivers themselves and the people surrounding the whole operation. It's a big deal, so I think it's a lot of pressure to be an F1 driver, and I think sometimes these guys it's not as fun to be an F1 driver as it might seem. I've heard numerous drivers over the years talking about how they missed the old karting days when it was go-karts and it was more just about the racing and the fun. And then when you get into F1, there's media and and advertising, and you gotta. It's a huge amount of burden. So anyway, circle it back. I thought they looked like they were really enjoying themselves. They did some. There were some incidents. They came together and lost some Lego bricks on the track,
World's
and
slowest crash.
yeah, I think they were trying to do it. To be honest, it looked pretty malicious out
Yeah,
there,
edging them out into the wall is a crazy
right?
thing to do.
So anyway, if you haven't watched it, go back and watch the Lego F1 cars from Miami. That was what a great idea that to come up with that. And I don't know who designed these things. I guess it took like 22,000 hours to make these cars. It was an insane amount of time to come up with the Lego car F1 car. But yeah, and I think it was like I thought I read it was like 440,000 bricks or something like
Oh
that
my
per car.
gosh.
So yeah,
That's massive.
yeah, pretty awesome.
Yeah,
They
it
really
did look like they were having a good time though.
they probably should have used what was the Lego movie President Business where he glued all of his Legos together. They probably
Uh,
should have glued them all together. Anyway,
yeah. Good time. I'm glad the drivers could step away and have a little fun because I think you are right. Like when you become an F1 driver, it's all business except for even the racing is sometimes all business, but that's kind of like the only time they really get to be themselves and do what they're supposed to be doing. Everything else is, media, brand deals and commercials and photographs and signatures and other speaking events that they need to go to. And I guess that's what you sign on for when you get that much money. So
yeah, I think after having been a working man for as long as I have, I would take the deal, even if it
yeah,
was obnoxious. I would race, even if it was for 5 races, and take that kind of cash.
yeah, you're getting paid
But
10 million. I'll sit in for an hour and answer
yeah,
questions. That's fine. That's not a big deal.
I do enjoy driving fast. So even if I sucked as a F1 driver, it's going to be a lot faster than I've ever gone. But yeah, it is cool to see them having fun. I like these kinds of events where they get to, you know, remind themselves that they entertain for a living and that they themselves are, you know, living a fun life. And I hope that that's how it is for them anyway.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I don't know if you've seen Charles Leclerc's dog, but that is the most pampered dog in all of history, man. That dude is, I think he's more beloved than Charles Leclerc himself.
Yeah, he does love his dog. I get a kick out of Charles. I think he seems like a good dude, and his dog and his like he rides his bike around Monaco, and uh, he seems like a for all the glitz and glamour, he seems like he's kind of got his head down on to earth. As do several of these guys. It's not just him, um, but yeah, he his dog makes an appearance here and there. I think he must bring his dog everywhere that he goes.
I'm sure he does. That's
I'm
probably his
struggling though.
girlfriend talking him into it.
Yeah, I'm struggling to remember his dog's name. What is his dog's name? Do you remember?
Oh man, I can't believe you're gonna put me on the spot like that. I don't remember. I remember his brother Arthur. That's it, right? Arthur Leclerc.
I think you're right. Yeah, we'll have to look that up. Now I feel ashamed that I don't know his dog's name. And I just watched an episode of Drive to Survive where his dog popped in there and he said his name. And now it's escaping me. So,
Hold on, Leo. That's what it is.
okay.
Leo Leclerc Saint Malou. Yeah,
Oh, man. That's funny. Yes, that does sound familiar now.
little Leo.
Well, isn't the new Pope? That's another thing. I guess we have news. There was a new Pope elected this week. And is it Leo? Pope Leo?
Is it?
I think it might be.
Did he change his name to Paul?
Well, yeah, so he's an American. We've been talking
Out of
about
Chicago.
wanting an American driver in F1. We got an American Pope. That's pretty close.
You're right. I just looked it up. Cardinal Robert Prevost changed his papal name to Leo the 14th.
Well, there we go. We look at these connections we're making from F1, Charles Leclerc, the Charles Leclerc's dog, to the Pope. We've just gone full circle.
7 degrees of separation.
That's right. All right. Well, what else do we got on the agenda, James?
I think we need to talk about some big changes that have happened in F1 recently. I think one of the bigger ones would be Franco Colapinto taking over for Jack Doohan. Uh, Doohan did the first, what was it, 6 races, and didn't amount to much. I took a few notes here. Doohan's best finish was 13th in China. Out of the 6 races, he's had 2 DNFs. Um, not exactly not exactly the best run, but I mean, he never came dead last. The lowest he came was 17th, if you don't count the DNFs. Um, so not terrible, all things considered, but not where they want to be, especially when you consider that Gasly, he has points. So, there's been instances and flashes of brilliance there for the car. And of course, Pierre Gasly, he's no slouch. He's a great driver, but Doohan just didn't measure up. And if you're comparing yourself to Gasly, who's been in the game for a while, it's not really a fair comparison, right? When you put him against the other rookies, um, uh, Liam Lawson doesn't have any points, right? Uh, Gabriel Bortoleto doesn't have any points, so and he's not in abnormal company. But Franco Colapinto's taken over, so he'll be in for the next 5 races, and then according to Flavio Briatore, after those 5 races, they'll reassess. So we may see Jack Doohan come back, well, which I think is unlikely, unless Colapinto has some seriously bad luck. So, what do you have any mention on it or any of your views that you'd like to share?
Well, so you know what? It sounded like, even though this kind of seems shocking, I think this was part of the agreement, right? Like that Doohan signed with Alpine, so it wasn't like completely unknown that they might be making a switch. So I think that we have to remember that, I guess, because it isn't completely a shock that they would swap him out. They knew that they were going to try this out and see, kind of have a battle for for who can get the seat. Um, Doohan did not do great. Like he of course, the 2 DNFs out of 6 is a bad, that's a bad record. I can't remember exactly how. I think he crashed out in Australia, right? So that one we can maybe overlook. What was the other DNF? Do you remember off the top of your head?
Miami. It just
Oh, it
happened.
just happened. Yeah, I should have remembered that. But yeah,
Turn one incident.
so the 2 DNFs not great, and then his results were mixed. He had one race, it seemed like, where he was doing fairly well. He was kind of running in the points, and I can't remember what happened to strategy or something that kind of caught him out and dropped him out of the points. So maybe he could do well. And a lot of the people that I've talked to, a lot of friends and things that we chat F1 with, kind of feel bad for the guy. Like, give the guy some more time. Was a regular thing that people said. But like I said, it was part of the deal, I think. Now, Colapinto has driven 9 races before. He stepped in for Sargent when Williams let Sargent go. So Colapinto's not coming in completely inexperienced, right? Like, he's already driven more races than Jack Doohan in F1, and had kind of a mixed bag. He's in the Williams, which is not an elite car, but he scored points. So he's got some promise, I think, and so I don't think this is a bad thing. I think I'd like to see what Colapinto can do. Let's see if he's got a little more moxie. So um, now Colapinto, so is he from Argentina? Is that where he's from?
He's an Argentinian. I was right.
Yeah. Okay. So he's from Argentina. He, like I said, he replaced Logan Sargent last year at Williams. Drove 9 races. Kind of his best race was in Azerbaijan, in Baku. He made it to Q3. He outqualified Albon by a position, and he finished the race P8. So those are the points he scored. But he had some crashes as well throughout the year, and so it wasn't a completely great record. It was, like I said, kind of a mixed bag. But anyway, I think yeah, my take on it is let's see what he can do. Doing to me was I didn't think he was great, and so if Colapinto does even moderately well, I think he's gonna take the seat. That's my guess.
Yeah, I was looking at Colapinto's record for last year. So you did mention that he came in Baku P8. Albon finished P7 that race, so I was pretty stoked about that. But out of those 9 races, he had 3 DNFs. So 33% of his races he had DNFs, which unfortunately the last two, Qatar and Abu Dhabi, were both DNFs for him. So that was terrible. He did finish ahead of Albon in Texas, so he did have some shows of brilliance, right? You can go back and watch any of those races, and you know, he had some great passes and some great just brilliant racing from him. So I think there is a lot of potential, and now that he's back in, not at the car or the team that he is used to, so he still have to come to grips with the Alpine. I think he'll. I think he has the potential to do really well there. I hope he does really well. Um, but looking at, I was trying to do a comparison of Colapinto and Albon, and it made me realize just how bad Albon's luck was last year. He had a horrible last 9 races, with the exception of Baku, because he had 3 DNFs and he had 1 DNS. So he was out for 4 races of the last 9, which is terrible. And Franco came ahead of Albon in Texas, which is, I think they only raced together like 3 times because of all the DNFs
Oh
that
yeah,
they had
geez.
together. So they really only raced head to head 3 times, which is unfortunate. Um, but off to a better start this year, with the exception of a few missteps. But
Yeah,
we'll
that's insane.
see.
I didn't even realize that Albon had such a rough end of last year. I must have checked out or not remembered that. Um, so yeah, crazy. I think if I had to guess, Albon will. The Williams looks so much better. I think Albon will clearly outperform Colapinto. I don't know that there's a danger that Colapinto is going to come in and shock Albon. That's my guess.
Yeah.
But or Albon. What am I talking about? Gasly uh, in the Alpine. I don't know that Colapinto will outperform Albon in the Williams either. But the the in the Alpine, I don't think he's going to be able to catch Gasly. I think Gasly will clearly uh, outperform him. But
You don't
you
think
know,
so?
yeah, I think Gasly will do better in the Alpine than Colapinto will do in the Alpine. That's what I was trying to say. If it didn't come out clearly. uh,
um, I don't know, man. I think so. I'm looking at Pierre Gasly's record. So he had a disqualification in China. He had a DNF in Saudi Arabia. His best finish was Bahrain in 7th, gaining 6 points. Miami, he finished 13th for the race, but he does have a single point for the sprint. So I don't know, man. At, Gasly's averaging about 12th because he has an 11th and 2 13s and a 7th. So he's averaging about 12th, 11th, 12th. I don't know. I think Colapinto could give him a good run for his money because Franco came in last year swinging. I think he's got a great drive. I think he is a great driver. I think he's going to give Gasly a run for his money. I think he'll be right there with him.
yeah, I mean it's a bit of a bold take. I don't I don't know if you have that on your bold predictions list, but that would be something to say that I don't know if you are thinking for the whole season or for the race, the upcoming race that that Colapinto outdoes Gasly, but that would be a good one, a good one to add if you don't have it already. Yeah,
I don't know. I
I
can make
mean,
that bold a prediction.
yeah, I mean, you could be onto something there. I'm certainly not. If you don't feel super strong, or I wouldn't be overly surprised because in a car like the Alpine, I think there's room that somebody who gets it right could come in and do well in it. But I think that Gasly, I thought Gasly's done fairly well this year. with the car. It's I don't think it's a great car. But yeah, it seemed like they were on an upward trajectory, and he was squeezing more out of it, especially when he got those points in the sprint. Um, Thought he would do better in the Miami race than he actually pulled off. But yeah, um, I I think that'll be a pairing to watch for sure.
Yeah. Well, my only reason is because when Colapinto came in last year and he was with Albon, they were pretty close to each other the times that they were racing together. Even qualifying, they were pretty close to each other. Um, so I think, same machinery. I think he'll be. I think once he gets to grip with the car, he'll be right
Mhm.
there with Gasly. It may not be this race, but probably within 2 or 3 races, he'll be right there with them.
Yeah.
I do also want to point out Gasly's 12th in the championship. So he's doing something for the team.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not too bad given their I don't know. I keep talking about their car like it's slow. It's a middle of the pack car, it seems. Um, I think it might be a slight step up from some of the back marker cars.
Yeah.
But so yeah. All right. Well, what else? So what else do we have? We talked about Colapinto. Um,
Well, we
what's the
can
next
stay
thing?
on Alpine and talk about how Oliver Oaks is out,
Yeah. Uh,
stepping down after the Miami Grand Prix. I don't know how much stepping down was taken on his own account or if he was forced to step down, but they accepted his resignation without question. So,
yeah. It seems that there was some controversy. I don't know. Was it his brother or somebody that?
yeah, so I did sort of like a deep dive in it. So, uh, his brother, who is William, was arrested in the UK for transferring criminal property, which uh, is just that, but it's kind of like a broad spectrum term. So it could be possible money laundering. And that's what I would, if I was a betting man, that's what I'd put my money on. So, kind of like a little bit of a backstory. William created a company and purchased high tech racing from the one and only Dmitry Mazepin, who, if you might remember, is Nikita Mazepin's dad.
The billionaire
Dmitry,
Russian.
yeah, Dmitry bought the team when Nikita wanted to get into F3, and William purchased from Dmitry right before the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And so the working theory is that he's still giving money to Dmitry, even though, um, you know, with Russia invading the Ukraine, uh, they've been essentially banned from making any money within the FIA. So, and then Oliver allegedly went to Dubai with a significant amount of cash, and nobody's exactly sure where in Dubai he is. I'm sure somebody knows, but they're not talking at the moment. It's basically a story that's still developing. So, uh, it's a lot of craziness. If it's all connected or if it's just crazy coincidence is yet to be seen. But uh, I don't know. I'm pretty close with my brother, but I don't know that I would help funnel money to Ukraine for him
Smuggling
or
cash.
to Russia for him. Yeah,
Yikes.
it's smuggling cash is crazy to do. Um, but Oliver Oaks didn't even make it a full year. So if it's purely just on how he's doing with the team, he didn't make it a full year. He only made it, I think it was 10 months that he was in. No replacement has been announced yet, and Flavio is going to just be like taking over his duties in the meantime. I imagine they might put Flavio in as the director and take over the job full time, but
Wow.
that remains to be seen.
Um, this sounds like a movie waiting to be made. I don't know.
Isn't it
the
crazy? Like it's so wild.
Yeah, I mean the Ollie Oaks, and then to be the fact that Flavio is sort of there to to manage this. Flavio himself, not exactly a clean cut image. Um, I don't know if like I didn't know much about Flavio because he was banned from F1 for quite a while, and I didn't see him around. When I started watching this sport. I would love to hear what you might know about him. I did a little bit of looking into it, reading up on him, and he's got a very shady past. He's kind of got a reputation for uh, I don't know, being a con man, I guess. Like he seems like he's kind of got some skill. He didn't start off as a guy that loved racing. It sounded like he kind of got into it later through Benetton, um, and but he has a history of convictions of fraud in Italy, and um, uh, you know, there he was busted on some like a con scheme as well, and then got into F1. Um, it seemed like kind of on a fluke a bit, but he did seem to have a bit of an eye for talent. He poached Michael Schumacher from Jordan to um, Benetton, right? Uh,
Yep.
Racing, and then he also kind of helped with Fernando Alonso's start of his career. So, Flavio Briatore, for his shadiness and con man stuff, must have some eye for talent, at least in F1. I don't know if that goes for anything, but and he's also, you know, with his kind of con man ways, he's got a bit of a an interesting personality. He's flamboyant and you know says a lot of interesting things and is a bit charming in some ways. So I don't know what you think. That was kind of what I picked up in my reading about the guy and watching a few clips of the guy talking and stuff. So what else can you tell us about Flavio Briatore?
Yeah, so Flavio, so growing up watching F1, like he was one of the bigger characters in F1. So whenever there were shots that weren't on the drivers, it was usually on Flavio, and his reactions are one of the crazy things that was he was saying. Even after he left F1, he he still said some crazy things, calling F1 like it's just a place for accountants rather than actual like sportsmen. Um, which after he left was crazy, but uh, he was involved in a few things, right? Like you said, how he was a fugitive in Italy. I think he also spent time in the Virgin Islands as a fugitive, trying to get out. He was also involved in, I think, famously the 2008 crash gate, where he asked his driver to crash on purpose, um,
Which is what got him banned from
which is what
F1.
got him banned from F1. But he was also part of the launch control controversy. I don't know if you know that one.
I don't remember that one. No.
So the launch control controversy um, had a lot to do with like the traction control and everything like that, which they weren't supposed to have. And Senna was basically like, "Oh yeah, you like these guys are cheating. Like I know they have something up with their car." And of course, Flavio's gonna, uh, negate all that. But
Yeah, I did read about that one. So it was software in their car, right? That they were not supposed to have, and I guess I didn't read it. I didn't. They didn't call it LaunchGate or whatever you call it.
yeah,
um,
so and one of the other things too is like the pit fueling that was
yes,
going on. So the most famous example is Michael Schumacher comes in for Benetton. Same, and Senna and his Williams come in for the pit box. They need the exact same amount of fuel, and somehow the Benetton crew was able to fill the car quicker than the Williams, even though everything is all supposed to be regulated and the same. Like they're all supposed to have the same fuel delivery systems, and it put Schumacher into the lead. And it was everybody's like, well, how can this be? And that's kind of what started the investigations into Benetton and Flavio Briatore and anything else that they might have been doing that was untowardly or against the rules.
yeah. Well, my takeaway with this guy is he's a huge personality. He's very um, charismatic and interesting, but he's also got a very checkered past. I mean, he was involved with a handful of scandals and one that ultimately got him booted from the sport. Um,
Yeah, if you there's an interview that he did one time, and he was quoting himself saying, "I am one of the best." So I think that just kind of tells you everything you need to know about the guy.
Yeah, we see this a lot in the world, right? Like charismatic leaders who have a lot of arrogance or personal pride or whatever you want to call it, self confidence. And some of those people are willing to bend the rules. They talk themselves into being able to try things. What's the famous quote? If you ain't cheating, you ain't racing.
Uh,
So I don't know if
that sounds
that's
like a NASCAR thing.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't. I guess maybe this shows us that even the elite Formula One is not above some of that. So everybody's trying to push the envelope. I don't excuse it in any way. I think it's not my nature at all to to mess with the rules or try to push things. But this does happen in lots of sporting, and a lot of it has to do with money. I think there's a lot of money to be made. There's a lot of money going around, and unfortunately, that means people are going to be looking for what they can do to uh, to get to get an advantage. But yeah, I I don't know what to make of the comment about it's for accountants. I'm an accountant, so maybe it is for me. Maybe I am more F1 than I realize. Become an
Yeah,
accountant.
like I'm all for people like looking at the regulations and finding you know technical innovations within the regulations, but when you're flat out making modifications and
Yeah,
changing the ride height of your car, or you know stealing sense of information from other teams, that's not the way to do it.
yeah,
um, but I like technical innovation within
sure.
teams, like Adrian Newey coming up with a double diffuser that dominated with Braun GP. I think that's a really good example. Another good example would be McLaren having two brake pedals. That was craziness. Ultimately banned, but you know, there was nothing against the rules that you couldn't do it.
Yeah,
I don't know that anybody would have ever thought to do it, or even Mercedes with their DOS system, right? Changing the toe of their car while they're driving. I think that's a great technical innovation, which ultimately was banned. But for the season, they were unstoppable with it, right? It's those
yeah.
technical innovations that I love, even if they are ultimately frowned upon and banned and giving you an unfair advantage. But I think that's what it is. That's what it should be.
I I think that there's a lot of innovation that happens because of racing. There was a time in my life when I looked at racing and I go, "What an incredible waste of fuel!" Just zooming around on there. But it is true, and I mean to an extent, that's not a wrong take. That we're just burning through fossil fuels for our own entertainment. On some level, I grapple with that all the time. But uh, there has been, I mean, like the hybrid engine is a result directly of formula or not of auto racing, right? I mean, there are things that have been innovated in the sport world that uh, at least accelerated the advancement of certain things. I mean, active suspension and traction control and all these things, right? Like, and sometimes we don't want them in the sport. I mean, in F1, they didn't want computers telling the cars how to balance themselves through a corner, right? So they got rid of that. But in the real world, that's a great innovation, right? We got a bunch of idiot drivers out here who don't know anything about the center of gravity or the weight distribution of a car. And so if you can traction control or actively monitor the suspension of the car, like, yeah, let's do that. Let's keep people safe on the roads. So, yeah, there's been a lot of innovations through auto racing. I think that don't survive the sport necessarily, but help in everyday life. So that's one of the things I tell myself when I'm mad about the the carbon emissions. I will say too that F1 on the topic of carbon emissions, F1 has been trying to be more responsible, right? So they they don't refuel the cars in the race, so that's they've cut back on the amount of um, fuel required, and they're trying to be carbon neutral. Was it by 2030? They have
I
a
believe
goal,
so. Yeah.
and they've done things like they used to have these electrically heated blankets that go over the tires to try to keep them at a particular temperature and keep them warm and things. I think that they now cannot be electric driven blankets. They have to just be blankets, like and so they're doing things to try to minimize the electronic or electrical usage and be a little bit more eco-friendly, which I think is good and makes me happy that they're doing this, because I do have my my own concerns about the environment. They even brought in Formula E, and which is not taken off nearly as big as the Formula One, Two, and probably three races, but it is fully electric vehicles driving around. That is kind of actually how I got started into F1. I was like, well, maybe if they have a non-gas guzzling version of this. Um, I will say they got to work on the sound of those cars. The Formula E cars don't sound cool, which is sort of lame to say, but yeah, we've all grown accustomed to the growl of a well, in this point with Formula One, a turbocharged V6 engine. Um, at one point, though, what did they have, a V10, which I can only imagine
V10,
the
V12.
the growl of that. So anyway, uh, sorry for that little side tangent on carbon emissions, but
No, that's okay. I'll continue on that. So like the F1 cars, like you're right, they're V6s, but they're only 1.6 liters. Like they're pretty stinking tiny by comparison what you would imagine a V6 would be. Um, and yeah, those Formula E cars, I do agree they need to change the sound. I don't know if you watched the Monaco Grand Prix that they just had for the Formula E, but it was pretty good racing actually. If you get a chance, I'd go back. It was a double header. I would go back and watch them. My first introduction to electric racing was actually MotoGP. Uh, we were me, my dad. I think even Don was there. Not Don. You're Don.
I'm here.
Jared. I think Jared, Jared and Steve were
Our
there. Who
other
were, of
cousin.
course, our other cousin. Um, and we were up at where was it? Monterey, Laguna Seca, and we were all like, we watched the MotoGP cars go by, and then we're all just kind of like sitting talking, and then out of nowhere, like we just see like this motorcycle go by, so I'm like, what the heck was that? And they had an electric MotoGP series,
Oh,
and
really?
we were like, you couldn't even hear those things. Like
Yeah,
we had no idea they were like on track or going until we just like saw one go by. We're like, oh, like looking around, like what the heck was that? Like it was
yeah,
so crazy. And then, but yeah, it opened up the world to like Formula E, which I became aware of. I think it gets bigger every year. Uh,
yeah.
I think they had some struggles in the very beginning, especially with the tracks that they were going to, because they're not really well known tracks. They're sort of makeshift circuits
Mm-hmm.
almost, but now they're racing at places like Monaco and doing the full course, where previously they were only doing like a truncated version of the course. So as the cars get better, I think they should really start racing at bigger, more well-known tracks, and I think that'll really help them out. But yeah, the racing's good. I watched it; it was great.
I haven't watched Formula E in a while, but I mean, like, they innovated a lot of things like extended battery life, right? Like they have I think it's like over doubled the life of the battery in those cars, so that they can go twice as long as they used to, right? And so again, to bring it back to practical applications that we see in everyday life, when you go get your Tesla or your Nissan Leaf or um, your F-150 Lightning, electric vehicle. I think a lot of the innovations that they make in these racing events end up, translating to the manufacturers of these cars later, and so like your longer battery life, your range on those batteries, I think it can be directly tied back to some of these auto racing sports. So yeah, not a complete waste of time to the average man to to have some interest in racing, auto racing, if you drive a car.
Yeah, it's a good time. Anybody that's looking to get into racing, there's something for everybody. Even if you like obscure racing like VW Bugs, like they have a VW Bug series that you can go watch. Like
Yeah,
if you're really into just like, oh, I wish they had more electric cars that were racing. Well, there's plenty of series that'll do it. The Formula E, MotoGP E. I think there's a handful of other ones, kind of like lower class ones. Um, if you like junk cars that race, like you can go watch junk cars race. Like there's
Yeah,
something for everybody to get into
the
racing.
24 hours of lemons. It's
24
a
hours of lemons where you go buy a junk car and just hope for the best.
one of my employees that works for me. She drives for 24 hours of lemons, and her husband is the mechanic. He designs and builds the car, and then she just goes out there and drives. And she routinely tells me she's the slowest out there every race, but she just does it to support her husband. Really, she doesn't necessarily love it, but I'm like, man, that sounds like a blast to me.
Maybe we
They
should
do.
get maybe we should hang out with him. We should do it.
I know. I mean, I have wanted to do it. I'm so unhandy that I wasn't sure how to get into it. But I think we've talked about it on a chat before on a text thread, and it would be a real fun time.
I'm into it. Maybe we should make that happen.
Yeah, I think that would be awesome. And if we had some video of it, we could put it up here in the podcast. Of us
My wife's
cruising
got a
around.
lead foot, so she would be a driver for sure.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, all
Um,
right. What else do we got? We probably should do some sort of speculation about the upcoming race, don't you think?
yeah, can we talk about Alonso first and just kind of how his season is going because it is breaking my heart
Yeah.
so
Hmm.
bad. He had two DNFs to start the series. He has no points to his name. The only what did we say? He's the only
Rookie.
non-rookie,
Yeah.
the non-rookie to not have points.
And he's about as
Um,
far from a non-rookie as you can be. He's the oldest guy out there. He's
yeah,
two-time world champion. Um,
he finished 11th twice, so he's just on the cusp. But
yeah, I had to make a bold prediction. I think it was either last race or the one before that he was going to score his first points, and that's kind of a shame that I'm making a bold prediction that Alonso is going to score a point. So
I think we've both made that prediction and been sorely disappointed.
yes. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what to make of that. It definitely is breaking my heart too. I really like Alonso. I thought, I think he's a really savvy driver. Uh, and I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's can all be attributed to the car because he's getting outperformed by Stroll, and that's a phrase I never thought I'd say. Uh, So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if something's going on with him personally or if he's getting too old to do this. I hope not. Let's see if things start shaping up. I do think we've talked many times already this year about how we think that they're looking ahead to 2026, and maybe that's really what's going on more than anything is that they just don't care what happens in 2025.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't know if you remember, but your very first bold prediction, you made a prediction for the season that Aston Martin was going to be fighting for P3 in the constructors.
yeah,
Uh,
don't remind me.
do you want to revise that one?
Well, I mean, there's nothing I can do about it now. I think we're obviously binning that one. That was not a good prediction. I thought that they would spend at least some of their efforts with Adrian Newey and their new facility on the 2025 car, and it just doesn't seem like they are. I think also, 2 years ago with Alonso, he did do quite well. He was taking podiums and things like that. So I was kind of thinking, okay, they're heading in the right direction, but it seems apparent that they're just not focusing on this car. And it seems like Stroll, he's squeezing a little more out of the car somehow. And so, uh, yeah, is he still in P10? He was P10 in the drivers'
I
championship.
believe he's still P10 in the drivers' championship. Let me have a look here real quick. Yep, there he is. He's got 14 points. He is tied with Esteban Ocon, who also has 14 points, who's sitting
Wow.
just ahead of him in ninth.
Well, so I would say, you know, it just, I mean, good for Stroll. I think that's actually good. As much as I bag on the guy, maybe I need to revise it. And I think in my bold predictions this week, I don't know if we want to get into that now, but I'll just say I was going to say that I
Yeah,
thought
give me your
Stroll
bold
would.
predictions.
So yeah, I thought Stroll was going to match his result in this race last year or better. So that's P9 or better. And I think you kind of had a similar take on Stroll.
Yeah, mine for Stroll was he's going to be in the top 10. He's going to have a top 10 finish.
So I mean, maybe we're coming around on Stroll. Let's go
Maybe
Lance.
this is his year.
Maybe so. Maybe that's why Alonso's doing so bad is that he had a meeting and Lawrence said, "Hey, make Lance look better." And Alonso's taking it to heart. Who knows?
uh,
I hope that's not the case. I don't think it would be, but funny to think about.
yeah. What other bold predictions you got?
So my other bold prediction. So last year Haas finished 11th and 12th. Just outside the points. So I think they've had an improved year this year. I'm going to put them both in the points. The two Haas cars in the points. I really will be watching and hoping that one goes right, or at least halfway right. If one of them gets in the points, that's a pretty good result. But yeah, let's see Ocon and Behrman uh, in the points.
Nice. Yeah, I'm gonna put Isaac Hadjar. I'm gonna bet that he gets back into the points. That's gonna be my other bold prediction besides Stroll being inside the top 10. And I also had Franco Colapinto. I had him just outside the points at 11th or 12th. Whether he beats Gasly is yet to be seen. I don't know that he'll beat Gasly, which means maybe Gasly will be in the points this race, which anything's possible, right? Especially if something happens to the Williams or somebody gets a time penalty this race. We'll see what happens.
I would like to see Gasly get in the points. But yeah, I think that is fairly bold to think that Colapinto is going to get up there into P11 or 12. It wouldn't surprise me if he's near the back of the field, but yeah, we'll see. Um, I think that well, I don't know. I guess I'd like to see. We'll see what happens with Colapinto. If he comes out and gets anywhere near the points, that's going to be a successful drive for him. So I don't know that Hadjar getting in the points is a super bold prediction, although he hasn't necessarily. What did we determine? He scored points twice this
Who,
season or
Stroll?
three times? No, Hadjar. Sorry.
Oh, Isaac Hadjar. Isaac Hadjar, he has 5 points at the moment, and he's scored points twice. So he finished P8 in Japan and Saudi Arabia. He came P10. But he's had two 11 finishes. Uh, of course, starting Australia off with not even making it to the green, which is unfortunate. But then Bahrain, he finished 13th. So he's always been just kind of like right there, floating around P10. And I think this race he'll be back into it. He'll be back in the points.
Yeah, I think you could be right there. He's putting together a good season. Oh, so my other bold prediction that I forgot, this is just completely out of nowhere. There's no reason for me to make this bold prediction. McLaren has to retire a car. So I just think that sometimes luck catches up to a team, and so
You're talking about mechanical retirement or like something like a crash, maybe?
I'm not gonna go at that specific. I think it could be either one. I think you know um, somebody's gonna crash, somebody's gonna go off, somebody's gonna um, have a mechanical retirement. It seems unlikely that they'd have a mechanical retirement because their car's been super reliable, but even reliable cars fail out there sometimes. So I think that's gonna be my guess. They're gonna have to retire a car.
That's a pretty bold prediction because they're looking mighty reliable this year. So I don't know that it'll be a mechanical failure, but anything can happen at turn one. We've seen some crazy stuff going on.
I didn't check it at Imola. They could get beached in some gravel if there's gravel. I can't remember if there's gravel
There's a
runoffs.
lot of gravel.
So getting beached, maybe that's more likely than mechanical retirement. But yeah, I mean anything. I mean a puncture could happen. Anything like that. I think it's just they're due up for something, and that's why I'm doing this. This is kind of like my prediction with Gasly, right? Like I kept predicting he's going to wreck the car. So if my record holds true, then maybe in a race or two, then McLaren will actually retire a car. But yeah, well, it's just something to keep an eye on, and give myself a bold prediction to be like, okay, who's gonna? This is a bad one to cheer for. Just like the Pierre Gasly wrecking the car. You don't really want to see it happen, but then you're watching and it's just like, okay. I see a little
Yeah.
twitch from Piastri, and I'm like, oh, could it happen? Could this be it? Is he gonna get beached?
Oh man. Yeah, Imola's going to be a good race. I always love Imola. I'm looking forward to it. Um, yeah, well, yeah. We'll see what happens because
I
it's got that long run down to a sharp left right. So anything can happen right there.
I think last year's race at Imola was somewhat uneventful, but if we can remind listeners, there was a nice challenge near the end of the race from Lando trying to challenge for P1. He eventually got within a second of Max, but I felt like he never quite put the pressure on Max to make a mistake. He was it was a little bit too late that he got within that DRS um, range of him. He finished about 7/10 behind Max for P2, and but had he caught him into that DRS zone uh, um, of 1 second, a couple laps earlier, and had maybe 3, 4, 5 laps to push him and see if Max would make a small mistake that he could exploit, it would have been a little more exciting of a race. But it was, I mean, it was fairly exciting that he caught up to him that close near the end. But yeah, didn't quite have enough to put some serious pressure on him.
Yeah, for me, that is the race last year where McLaren really started to show their progress and that they were going to become a championship contender. Um, because it was within like the last like 15 laps where we saw Lando chasing down. And I think had there been like just like 3 more laps, I think he would have got him. Um, I think it's also important to note that Stroll came in P9 last year, and he had some actual good overtakes. So maybe Stroll being in the top 10 isn't as bold as we think it is.
Yeah, maybe the track suits him. Another noteworthy thing about Stroll in that race, he was the last car who didn't get lapped. P10 and below were all lapped, and I mean that's saying something. I mean that's a lot of cars that got lapped, and Tsunoda scored 1 point in P10 and was lapped. So Stroll, good job, buddy, not
Yeah.
getting not getting lapped there. So pretty insane. That I thought was an interesting statistic from the race. I think there was one retirement. It was Albon, and he had 4 pit stops in the
Oh
race.
no.
So yeah,
What a
something was
terrible
clearly
race
up
for
with
him.
his car. A 4 stopper means you ain't doing so good in
Oh
almost
man.
any race. So, and then Alonso had 3 stops. So everybody else was on a 1 stop strategy. So not looking so good for those guys there. George had 2 stops in the race, but he was one of those was to put on, I think, softs, and then he snagged fastest lap. George did. So but yeah, so everybody was on a 1 stopper. Albon was on a 4 stopper. So, and then he ultimately retired the car. So something was going
Oh,
on.
what a bummer.
I think his first pit stop, Albon's first pit stop, they botched it on putting one of his wheels on, and so he went back out there with a wheel not fully on the car, and then they had to stop him. So that right there gets you to a 2 stopper immediately, and then from there it was just all bad news for Albon.
Yeah, what a
So
bummer.
yeah,
Well, yeah, I guess we'll see, huh? I'm excited. I love
yeah.
Imola. It's always a good race. It's one of the longer tracks. I think it's about 3 miles. So, uh, man, it's crazy. I'm just thinking about how you said like half the field was lapped. I guess, when you take 1 second over, 1 second off the pace over 60 plus laps,
Yeah.
that'll add up really quick.
Yeah, the lap record, by the way, just to give people a sense of the distance, 1 minute 15.484 for Lewis Hamilton in 2020. That's the lap record for this. So 115, I guess that's probably a qualifying lap, right? Uh, that just I sometimes I look at these times because that gives me a sense of like how long the track is or how fast the track is. 115, uh, pretty fast, pretty fast track. I mean, some of these we're looking at like more like a 125, 130 at some of the tracks. So yeah, fairly fast track. It's a 63 lap race. 19 turns around the track. I will say there's a couple of these turns that I think we talked in a previous episode. It might have been one where Patrick was filling in. I think it was Julian Palmer was talking about what makes a turn, and he was really beefing with some of the turns that they call turns at Jeddah. And there's a couple turns at Imola that are like the slightest of turns. I noted that when I was looking at the track diagram. It's
Yeah,
like
it always irks me when they put like, oh, it's a slight kink or a slight curve.
yeah.
I don't. I think if you're not braking, it shouldn't count as a corner.
I mean, a lot of times turn one is considered the biggest spot on a racetrack, right, where the most action happens. Well, turn one technically at Imola is I mean, I don't know if this makes sense to do this, but let me put this up here. Let's see if it'll show up.
Just vaguely.
Let me see. Turn one is right here, this tiny bend in the road. So
Yeah.
it's like,
But then they don't put the one going to the left as a turn immediately after it. Like it's got two little
yeah,
kinks.
exactly right. But then turn two is a legit turn, and it's kind of a chicane. You go left and then right, and so that's, I think, where we'll see a lot of the action, where people are going to bunch up right at the start of the race. It'll probably be turn two.
Yeah, what we would qualify as turn 2 and 3.
Right.
Well, it should really be turn 1. I don't count
Exactly.
those couple kinks as turns, but I don't know. Who are we to say?
We're just a couple of dudes that love this racing and want to talk about it. That's
I
it.
feel like you and I could just fix all the problems right here.
They better hire us. I think we could be consultants. I mean, if Flavio says that F1's for accountants, that's you and me, man. We're finance guys. We can fix this.
Yeah. We are the people, and the people have spoken.
I don't know what finance has to do with figuring out what makes a turn, but somehow it's the analytical brain.
Yeah, anyway. Fair enough. Well, yeah, man. Thanks for meeting with me on Mother's Day. I'm going to let you go hang out with your wife and your mom and tell them I say hey.
Sounds good. We'll do.
Maybe we'll plan a trip up to see you sometime.
Yeah, we definitely need to do something. But we'll reconvene next week to talk about what happened at Imola.
Sounds good to me, man. I'm excited.
All right. How do we sign off in Italian? Do you just say ciao?
I think so. I think ciao's hello and goodbye. Probably the best duality there is. I don't know if somebody's trying to get rid of you or get your attention.
Yeah. Well, it's the Bearman sign off. That's what I'm going to call it from now on when we say ciao, because that was his sign off when he was passing people a few races back. So the Bearman sign off. Ciao.
Ciao, man. I'll see you later.